Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and I'm doing a bit of a hobby hangout tonight with something a little bit special. Basically, if you don't know, I'm going to an event this coming Saturday. I mean, not tomorrow, but the next week on the 29th. I'm going to get my mic a little closer here. Let me know if you can hear me okay. But I'm going to this event over on the 29th, and I'm very, very excited about it. It is my second time at a tournament, and if you follow the channel, you know that I didn't have the best experience with the first one. I don't hold that against anyone. I didn't get to play all 3 rounds. I only got to play one of my 3 rounds for various reasons. And so this one coming up on the 29th is much, much closer to actually where I live. And so I'm very, very excited about that. So to that end, I wanted to put together a show where I really just work on doing my best. And by that, I mean, they put out the missions and the Realmscape rules because they are using those, and we'll talk about those a little bit, and how I can probably do my best to kind of keep up. And so I have them all printed off here. We'll be going through the mission packet basically of the event coming up, and yeah, so basically in this show, I was going to do this privately, but I thought, why not just share it with people? And so what I'm going to do is walk through the missions here, talk about the army that I'm going to be bringing, and then kind of you can follow along with me if you're kind of new to events and things like that, like I am, how I'm going to kind of plan out my actions for each mission. So that's kind of the idea. Got some people pouring in, I can see. Tell me if everything sounds and looks okay, just so I know audio and stuff is working. It should be just fine. I can see it on mic levels here. Sure, okay. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Just looking through the event packet and then kind of working on an army list and then making a cheat sheet. So this is like, if you are someone who is new to Age of Sigmar tournaments, hopefully going to be something that'll be of value to you. So yeah, we will just jump right in. Ryan says, hey, from New Zealand. Hi, hello. What are you doing, man? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and transition over to the downward cam. And as you can see, there are no models in front of me. When I get to the point where I'm just kind of, I don't know, speculating and kind of having things percolate through my brain, I must keep painting my Gorgon here, who is coming along pretty well. But we'll do that later. So, got a folks coming in. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. Oh, Bullstone says, but. Let me wait to see if there's a problem with the audio. Oh, Stone, finish your sentence. I was wondering if there's something wrong before I start diving into the topic. Blackhawks, okay. All right, so we have here the 3 missions, and we've talked about this quite a bit in our group, me and the Rerolling Ones guys. That's me, Jack, Brent, Mark, and Jack's brother. So we've been chatting quite a bit about the missions, because we have some thoughts, and this is a part where it's going to be very interactive. I want to hear your thoughts on these missions as I go through them. So starting off with round 1, I don't know how well you guys can see on there, but it's called Total Conquest. And let's see here. Oh, I should actually qualify. It's a 2,000 point tournament, 3 rounds, 1 day. So yeah, so let's see here. ITC standard, they are using battle plans out of the core book, and then Realmscape features and things like that. So first one is Total Conquest. This one is where you have your table, very awkward deployment sections, and then 4 objectives. And basically it's just fighting to claim the objectives. You get 1 point at the end of each one of your turns for when you control, and if your opponent controlled it in the last round and you stole it from them, you get an additional point for stealing it. So very straightforward. The thing that we're going to come back to this one, but the thing is that deployment zone makes it very awkward, and I'm kind of interested into why they chose this mission. The reason I say that, let me grab my pen. That makes it a little better reference marker. So I'm playing Beasts of Chaos. That's going to be my main faction, and the Beasts of Chaos Herdstone has to be set up completely within my territory, more than 12 inches from the opponent, which shouldn't be a problem. Everything is always perpetually 18 inches, so anywhere in my deployment area, functionally. The thing is, I'm trying to think of where to place the Herdstone. That's kind of the most important thing right now. I'm thinking somewhere like more towards the center, maybe like there. Put that dot right there so you can see. That way when the aura goes out, it's at least covering the 2 objectives that are on my side. And then, of course, eventually it'll reach into the middle scrum. That's my thought. If you have a better thought, leave it in the comments down below, but that's what I was thinking right there. In fully in my territory. Of course, the other side, it's just a mirror. But, yeah. The realm that we're fighting in is Ulgu. I have actually the rules printed out. I went ahead and printed off everything I need. So things about Ulgu that are important. First of all, the Realmscape feature is Impenetrable Gloom. That one is right here, number 2. The maximum range of attacks or spells is 6 inches. Now, here's the thing. This only benefits me. I don't have any ranged attacks in my army. I don't think I have a single. I'm not bringing Ungor Raiders. So, yeah, so that's a good thing. So it gives me at least a chance to get into combat. I'm going to ask your opinions about these missions at the end when we get to the end of this section, talking about the missions. But just for now, that's what it is. So the cool thing is that given like the deployment and ranges and like that, I mean, I could get into turn 2 before serious shooting actually gets to me, which is awesome as a Beast of Chaos player. So that's super sweet. As far as the realm spell you get, it's Mystifying Miasma. Has a casting value of 4, which is awesome because I have no bonuses. Select an enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. That unit cannot run until your next hero phase. In addition, subtract 2 from the charge rolls that unit next hero phase. I'm trying to think of how effective it would be to use that one. So, what is it? They can't... That unit cannot run. In addition, subtract 2 from charge rolls. So yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, in any objective game where there's like so many objectives, preventing someone from running to be able to go and capture that objective, it doesn't seem like it's going to be game defining. But I will keep an eye on that. If I do think there's a unit that can go run and catch an objective from an enemy, I will use that on them. And the unique command is... You can use this command ability to start a hero phase. If you do so, you can use either the Shadowed Mansions or Shadow Realmscape feature on the right. In addition, after setting up the new unit in its location, you do not have to see if any units become lost in Shadow Realm. So this is actually an interesting one, and one that I think, Jack, if you are watching from Rerolling Once, you should pay attention to. You do get, as far as I know, the realm commands. I didn't see anything in our dossier or whatever that said you can't. The reason is Shadow Mansions and Shadow Realm are both Realmscape features as well, and they basically allow redeployment. The idea is you're in the realm of Shadow and you can kind of fade in the shadows and pop somewhere else. So pick a friendly unit that has all its models within 6 inches of the battlefield, remove that unit, then set it up more than 9 inches from an enemy unit with all its models within 6 inches of a different board edge. And the other one is basically if you're garrisoning, you can pop different areas if you're garrisoning a building, which is not going to come into play. So that one could be useful. Thing is, Jack's main tournament army is a shooting stormcast, so having to pop out 9 inches away still doesn't quite help him if the maximum range is 6 inches. So that is kind of a bummer. But for an army like mine, which we'll get to in a little bit, I think it could be useful, especially because you do have this weird narrow stretch. It's 3 inches on both sides. And I just think that, like, if I put Bestigor and a Beast Lord in ambush or something like that, or a few units in ambush, combined with the ability to shuffle things that are on the table, that could be really good. And if I remember that and my opponent doesn't, and we're playing an objectives game, I can still use that Realmscape command ability, so that'd be amazing. So that's something to keep in mind, especially in this mission. Outside of an enemy, wholly within 6 of the board edge. So that's quite a bit. It has to be a different table edge too. So there's some restrictions, but I think it could be really good. So that is the first mission. Weird awkward deployment. No one can shoot further than 6 inches, or spells other than 6 inches. Which actually, another thing about that, if spells don't work greater than 6 inches, then Mystifying Miasma is kind of worthless, because if I had to be within 6 of them to cast it, they're already on me. They don't need to run. So, okay. So that one's probably the roughest. We'll come back to talking about how we feel about those things in just a little bit. The second mission will probably be after lunch. And so this one is Scorched Earth. And so Scorched Earth is pretty standard deployment. Split the table in half long ways. What are you trying to do here? This is the one where you're trying to control your objectives, and starting on turn 2, if you have your enemy's objective, you can burn it and get an extra command point. I'm sorry. When you raise an objective, you score D3 rather than 1. I understand. So it is more profitable to hold your enemies and then burn them rather than sit back and just hold your own. So this one, Hearthstone's going as close as possible to the dead center. That needs to wreck their day. I don't see anything. Oh, sorry. We'll go to the Realmscape stuff here. So it's in the realm of Akshi, and the thing is Flaming Missiles. Improve the rend characteristic of missile weapons by 1 while the range of the attacking unit is more than 12 inches away. That doesn't benefit me. It only hurts me. So it's pretty much the opposite of the last round. I get hurt pretty bad from this. I have pretty meager saves on all the Beastmen anyway, so it doesn't dramatically change things. Like going from a 5 to a 6 doesn't honestly feel very different. I've been on both ends of that. When I paid Bone Spitters, they just had a 6 up forever. But so that's going to be a big deal. But it is only more than 12 inches, and so not everyone has guns that are that long range. As far as the spell, you get Fireball, which is basically a better arcane bolt. That depends on how big the unit is. So if it's a model, it's a unit of 1 model, like a hero, takes 1 mortal wound. If it's a unit of 2 to 9 models, it's D3, and if it's 10 or more, it's D6 mortal wounds. It's only a casting value of 5. So that's going to be super good if my opponent remembers to use it against me, and devastating if I use it against them. So I have to be kind of selective about that one, because I don't want to use it and then show them that it exists, and then they can turn around and use it on me. That would be a terrible idea. So I'll play that one by ear. And then the command thing is Firestarter. It uses command ability at the start of your movement phase. If you do so, pick a terrain feature that is within 12 inches of a friendly hero and 3 inches of another friendly unit. So you have to have a hero and a unit within so close of a terrain. Okay. On a 4-up, the terrain feature is set alight. If the terrain feature is set alight for the rest of the battle, any units with models in or on at the end of the movement phase suffer D3 mortal wounds. In addition, a model cannot see another model if a straight line drawn from the center of its base to the center of the other model's base can pass across the terrain feature. Okay. So it makes, basically it's a big cloud of smoke that no one can see through. And if you stand or try to walk through it, you take D3 mortal wounds. That doesn't sound very good to me. I mean, it's good, but like I don't want to spend a command point and it only goes off on a 4-up. I'm not really a big fan of spending command points and then having like a random value. Like I still have to roll for it. Like if I spend a command point, I want to do the thing. Okay, so we have this one where ranged attacks get rend if they're outside of range. So I think a big focus would be putting the Hearthstone in the center there as close as possible. It still has to be a certain distance from enemy territory, so it's not going to be there. It's going to be more towards my objective. So doing that, what else? I'm trying to decide if I think maybe the Hearthstone shouldn't go in the center because then he's only catching like really just 1. If I put him in the center of 2 of mine, it drastically debuffs my opponent when they come to claim those 2 objectives. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Because the way it works is if you're within range of the Hearthstone when you're trying to take it, you have a -1 to your saves, I think. Something like that. We'll review the Hearthstone because I'm going to review all my rules. You get a debuff. And then my guys are immune to battle shock when they're in that bubble. So that's kind of huge. So I think the Hearthstone should actually probably go just defending 2 of the objectives. Like defending in huge air quotes. So there. And so let's see you do that. And then having some, I can have up to like 3 units of Bestigor and a Beast Lord in ambush. I think those are going to be my main aggressors. Using the bestial call points to summon in like spawn and things like that to hop on objectives, I think is probably the way to go. So that one is pretty straightforward. I think it's just don't get shot, be super aggressive because that's the only thing my army does. It's just it burns out like a candle. And The third one is the one that I'm least excited for, which is Star Strike. And I want to hear your thoughts about this. I really hate Star Strike. I think it is the worst mission there is. And the reason I say that is because your actual objectives that you're fighting for don't come down in the game until turn 2. And then the other, so there's 3 objectives total. The first one comes down turn 2. The other 2 come down in turn 3. And so I just feel like with armies like Slanesh or a lot of Khorne-based armies, they're so geared towards aggression that the number of models they have left on turn 2 or 3 to do the objectives things, once you figure out what the actual game is just so meager that it's just not fun. And so my Beast of Chaos are going to be the exact same way. And so I got to figure out, this is probably the hardest one for me. This one's set in the realm of light, Hish, and it is Domain of Symmetry and Purity. The Realmscape rule is subtract 1 from bravery characteristics of chaos, destruction, and death units, of course. So I'm at a -1 bravery the entire thing. Okay, I mean it's whatever. You know what I mean? Like goats are gonna die. It's fine. Goats is gonna die. You know, that one, it's clearly negative against me, like as a debuff, but it's not drastic. I don't think. I mean, I really don't think it's the end of the world. So let's see here. This one, yeah, basically it gives you this little grid on turn 2, but at the start of the game round, you roll a die, and on a 1, 2, or 2, it comes in this section, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, and that's how you do it. And then say I got the first turn of round 3, then I would roll the same thing, and it would come in my section of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when my opponent's hero phase happens, it's the same thing. And so that's really the idea. I don't like games, like missions like this, where I don't feel like we know what the point of the game is until turn 2 or 3. So it's not my favorite. For this one, it depends on who I'm playing against. Frankly, I'm thinking put the Herdstone in the center. Just cause. Yeah, I don't want to bet heavy any other direction. And for the first turn, that's where the scrum's going to be, because none of us have an objective to move toward. So I'm thinking that's the best idea. And just be as obnoxiously as aggressive as possible, so that when the objectives do come down, my opponent is hemmed in with goats, and I can just send a hero or something to go claim one. So that's the idea I got. If you are someone who is really, really good at Star Strike, let me know. I hate it. Kind of going back over all these, I'm gonna let you in behind the scenes on a conversation we're having. We're having a conversation in our group chat of friends locally about Realmscape features being included in match play. Now, here's the thing: I love thematic rules. If you've watched the channel, you know I like thematic stuff. The thing is that Jack has his ranged heavy focus Stormcast. So the first mission of only being able to shoot 6 inches, it hurts him. And not like in a super fun and flavorful, it just kind of sucks to suck kind of thing, but like in a it is detrimental to the function and core mechanics of the game in the shooting phase. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I feel like it is easy for a Realmscape feature rule to so fundamentally change the mechanics of the game that it becomes a different game, and frankly not as fun. I point to the Gyran one, which was in the last event that I went to, where no one could run unless they could fly, which meant the Nighthaunt player was having a field day, and everybody else, it took till 3 turns to move up halfway the board. I didn't really mind that one so much because I had the Iron Fist from the Hard Boys, or the oh my gosh, the Iron Jaws. I don't know why I blanked on that. Which gave me like an extra D6 movement, which is basically a run. But yeah, that kind of stuff. It's not my favorite. So the first one, Total Conquest, really, really skews hard against Jack. And that's the thing. He was like, I think maybe I'll take Khorne. He doesn't really want to, but maybe, he can make it work. Certainly I would say with Khorne, we're kind of in the same boat as far as like low armor, lots of attacks with a few elite units really do damage, like Blood Warriors or kind of like his version of Bestigors. The Star Strike is still one that hurts that army. But yeah, so I'm not really a huge fan of that rule. I really don't mind the flaming missiles from Actually. That's because adding rend for a very specific thing, like the number of units that have ranged attacks and the number of units who have ranged attacks above 12 inches, and then you have to shoot them from 12 inches away. Not that they have it, they have to shoot from 12 inches away. I feel like mitigates, you know what I mean, how harsh it is to some armies. Like, that's fine. You know, it's a minimal rules addition that I'm totally cool with. So Total Conquest, really, actually, I like Total Conquest. It makes me think hard. The Realmscape feature for Olgu they chose, I'm not into that. But the Actually one seems very fun. And Scorched Earth seems super fun. It seems like it rewards aggression. It rewards aggression mission-wise, but the Realmscape feature kind of gives buffs to more defensive shooting lines, which is kind of a fun combination, actually, because you're kind of rewarding multiple ways to play. So I actually like the way this mission came together, and actually I'm really happy with that. And Star Strike, I just hate Star Strike so much. And then Domain of Symmetry and Purity. It's another one that's just very minor, and I'm fine with it as far as our Realmscape feature goes. What's funny is it seems there's also a Subtract Bravery for Order, which I had never seen that one before. That's really funny. We got some folks saying they don't like the Realmscape features. And that's the thing. I still stand by the credence that, like, if you choose smart ones, they can make games very fun. Like, I liked this Scorch Earth combo. I've seen Flaming Missiles used in other missions, but not with Scorched Earth, the battle plan, and I like it. That's a cool idea of rewarding both aggressive play for objectives and shooting at the same time. I like Total Conquest as a mission because that deployment, even though it's a pain in the butt to like map out, it's fun and it presents a unique challenge to me with the herd zone and where things should be. I like it. It's just everything has to be at least 18 inches away. Man, that's rough with the 6-inch shooting. What is some other stuff in Olgi we could do? Let's see. I mean, the one right below it is the maximum ranges of attacks and spells is 12 inches. I feel like that's exceedingly more fair and useful. And I mean, Jack wouldn't, but at least if you came down from like Deep Strike or whatever you want to call it, you could still do stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the biggest thing. You could only get, if you had a big blob of dudes, only the first 3 inches worth could be in range to shoot, but you can still do things. So I'd be more on board with that one. It's interesting that so there's 6, 12, and 18. I feel like the 18 one is kind of irrelevant because there's not a ton of stuff that goes past 18 in terms of spells particularly, but even shooting, there's fewer long-range things, but the 12-inch I feel like is a stronger choice for this kind of mission, especially because you're already 18 inches away at the start. Like, at any given time, you are at least 18 inches away when you start the game. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm much more in favor of that. And I will voice that opinion in a very polite way. But we'll see. I'm also going to do a stream when this is all over, kind of literally going back over these missions and telling you exactly what happened on the tabletop. Let's see here. And then Star Strike. Yeah, I don't know much to say about that one. This is going to be my super tricky one because you don't actually know what the objectives are. So tell me in the comments if you have any questions. When you look at approach missions, if you guys are tournament goers, what are some things that you consider? I'm already trying to keep things about my army in mind as far as, like, where does the herd stone go? I asked that in every single one of these. I think for Total Conquest, it's going to go as close to they can in the center to get my objectives covered. Scorched Earth, it's going to probably go between two of my objectives on the side over here. I'm going to measure it out and try to get as close up towards my opponent's enemy line, but still be in range that on turn 2 I still catch these two objectives, or turn 2 or 3. I think that's the way to go, because then I'm also projecting that Herdstone aura into my opponent. So I think that is the way to go. In Star Strike, it's just going to go in the center, and I just hope that it comes down in a place that's good for me. That's all you can do. Realistically, the biggest hope that I can offer is try to claim the objective that lands turn 2, and then If I am able to win the roll or at least break ties for round 3, take it so that I know where the objective's coming down on my end. And that's that. So yeah, if you have any pointers, shoot them in the comments. Love to read. Let's see here, but now we're gonna talk the beasts. I got my Herdstone here for good luck. He's my new bobblehead, my new equivalent. Ooh, sorry about that. Got a sip of water. And let's see here. So let's start talking about the army I'm going to take, and that's going to put. We're going to keep referencing these missions because I'm going to put these things in context. Again, this is really just me thinking out loud. Because it's the first event, and then our first full event, and I didn't put this much thought into the last one. And when we got to the tables, me and my opponent were both fairly new. And so I want to be at least someone who's knowledgeable about... I was knowledgeable about my army back then, but I mean, knowledgeable about the scenario so I can kind of help and walk through whatever. Let's see, allegiance abilities. Let's start off here. Let's see here. Patrick says the herd still looks amazing. Thank you so much. I love it. I have a tutorial going up this week about how I painted the red glowing rock into the cool blue. I did it on a gnashing maw. So let's see here. Herdstone. Okay. After the territories have been chosen before the players begin to set up their armies, you can set up a herdstone wholly within your territory more than 12 inches from enemy territory and more than 1 inch from other terrain. So I'm hoping there's no terrain in the areas that I went to put down. So yeah, let's see here. And if there's another Beast of Chaos player, we roll off. That's fine. That's just fine. Important note. So my army is going to consist of, let's see here, Brayherd, a Slaves to Darkness ally contingent. We'll talk about why in just a second. But then I think that's actually it. Oh, there's a Gorgon. Gregory the Gorgon, who I'm still working on and going to paint if things kind of settle down. So, yeah. Okay, so anyway, the Brayherd. So I'm trying to think of what special rules will come into play. The Brayherd folks can ambush, which is basically I set them up in ambush when they're deployed, and then on the my movement phase of turn 1, so it doesn't matter if I go first or second in the turn, they have to come in. So there's no option to leave them in ambush. They have to come in, but they can come in wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield and more than 9 inches from enemy, but I can be in any edge I want, and so that's kind of exciting. And so definitely my set of ambush units. I'm thinking of having like 2 units of Bestigor and 1 Beast Lord in ambush. And the reason that is, this way I can at least get on each side of the enemy and kind of tie them up from different angles. Because the thing is, if you have 3 units of Bestigor in ambush, you can get congested on the sides of their battle line. And I don't want that kind of congestion. So, yes, we will do that. I do have a Thunderscorn here that's going to be there. He basically gets D6 movement, right? Start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each Thunderscorn unit more than 3 inches from an enemy that can move a distance equal to inches. Yep. So he basically gets the Iron Jaws Battalion thing. And so the idea is he's going to move up. I'm just basically, if you guys don't know, I just started this army. I have quite a few options, but it's a matter of how much I can get built and ready. I'm not going to, I've kind of eased up the gas on saying I'm going to have the whole thing painted. I'm not going to kill myself. I'd rather enjoy the painting than kill myself. But I need to get it all built at least. So, so I have that guy. Actually, I do have a Warherd. If you guys didn't know, the Gorgon is a Warherd dude now. So let's see. At the end of the combat phase, if any attacks made by a Warherd unit in that combat phase completely destroyed any enemy units, heal D3. Okay, so he's got to kill an entire unit, or at least finish a unit, and he heals D3 wounds. So that's kind of, it's good on a multi-profile model like the big Gorgon. So, okay. I will take it. I'm going to be creating a cheat sheet here to remind me of all these things. If you guys don't know, if you guys don't go to events, you should always use cheat sheets. We use them a lot when we do rerolling ones to make sure we don't miss any rules. This still happens, but I mean, it helps you kind of with the flow of the game. Get your brain trained to like, okay, hero phase, do this, 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 and this. So, great phrase. I am taking a great phrase. I'm taking Gave Spawn, which is why I got these guys, and I am more excited for these than I can probably express. So, yeah, we'll get to that in a second because that'll be fun. If you're not familiar with how Gave Spawn works, it's super cool and super Doug-like. Primordial Call, and this is one that's gonna be useful for the cheat sheet. So basically, they have a summoning mechanic, if you didn't know, in Beast of Chaos. Every turn at the start of my hero phase, I get what's called a Primordial Call point. In addition to that, if I have a unit that's near the Herdstone, and I also have a hero near the Herdstone, I can say, I'm going to sacrifice a unit to the Herdstone, and they take D3 mortal wounds, and I gain that many Primordial Call points. So every turn I can get 1 plus D3. Basically how it works. If I have 3 or more, which of course you could definitely have 3 in your first turn, if you have 3 or more at the end of your movement phases when the summoning happens, and basically you summon one of these things, it comes in, it has the same rules as the ambush, so any table edge within 6 inches of the edge, more than 9 inches from an enemy. So that's the idea. The one that matters for Gave Spawn, actually we're just going to dive into that now, is Spawn, Chaos Spawn. So let's talk about Gave Spawn. So for those of you who are fluff-minded, Gave Spawn are beasts of chaos that are obsessed with the idea of the warping power of chaos. That like, as creatures get larger and more twisted, and all of a sudden this guy has like a tentacle sprout off the side of his arm, and you know, these kind of warp and twisted stuff. Mutations are rampant, that kind of thing. And so they have a few special rules that really bring that to life. And I'll just go through them. So their big thing is called the Gift of Morgar. It says, if a friendly Gave Spawn hero, which is going to be all my heroes except for the Slaves to Darkness allies, if a hero is slain, roll a dice before removing that model. On a 2+, 1 Chaos Spawn is added to your army. Set up the spawn anywhere on the battlefield within 6 inches of the slain hero. If the hero had the... And basically it says if you had a keyword of Korn, Nurgle, Slanesh, Zinch from the battalions you can take in this book, it gains it, and if it didn't have a keyword, you don't gain it. Basically, you just, whatever the hero was who died, it becomes that same thing. So on a 2-up, you get a spawn. And you're thinking to yourself, why would I want a spawn? It's okay. It's not the greatest unit, but it's not the worst. So the general has to take a command ability. This is how the kind of going forward, all of the, you know, Stormhost equivalents, I think they're called Great Phrase in this book. That's how that works. But anyway, the command ability you have to take, and I want people to pay attention because it makes sure, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be reading this wrong. Here's what it literally says. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Gave Spawn unit wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Gave Spawn Chaos Spawn, the one you just create, a spawn you can take or you've created previously in the game. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that model's melee weapons until the end of that phase. Now, here's my question. Okay. It doesn't say that the general has to be within 12 inches of the spawn. It seems as though, the way it's written, that the general could be all the way in the back of the field, nowhere near the combat. I spend a command point, pick a spawn that's in the fight, or somewhere near a battle, and someone within 12 inches of that spawn gets the buff. Is that correct? Because nothing says pick a spawn near the general within 12 inches of the general. It just says pick a spawn and pick a unit near it. So that's my question. Because the reason I ask this is because Mini Wargaming played Gave Spawn this week, and in one of the games, because I'm a Vault member, the one in the Vault was fine, but the one they played, he kept having the general be near it, and I was like, that doesn't seem like that. Okay, so I'm getting some confirmation here. I'll probably just double check with the TO before, or my opponent, whatever like that. But basically, it seems pretty straightforward. You just literally pick a spawn on the table, and then someone near it gets, or the spawn themselves gets +1 attack, which is huge in this army, because this is like a death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of army. Anyway, so the reason is that's why you want to take more spawn, because if I go second in a combat phase, my opponent, like if I go second in a turn, my opponent can kill a hero, blow them up, they become a spawn, and then in the next section, when I take my turn at the start of that combat phase, that spawn can now buff a unit. So that's kind of just a little buff train. I'll talk about my list I'm going to be building here in a second, but the idea is I'm going to have 2 spawn in the army when I start, just to have them, just as an option. And then I think I have 4 more spawn models I'll be using throughout the game for heroes and things like that. I see Halo's in the chat. Hello, my friend. And everyone else is popping up. Okay, cool. I'm not crazy. And this is really good for me. I'm actually really glad I'm doing this, because I'm one of those people, I love the stories and I love painting and I love playing narrative games, but like thinking about rules in the heat of the moment tend to overwhelm me. So this is why I'm doing this. There's also forced to take a command trait, which it's pretty good. The general can attempt to unbind 1 spell in the enemy hero phase, same manner as a wizard. If he's already a wizard, he can unbind an additional 1. So I think I'm going to have a shaman be my general, because having a shaman as a general unlocks Bestigor as battle line. Sounds good. So yeah, got that. And the artifact of power. This is super fun. So pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 2 to the damage characteristic of that weapon, which is just savage. However, each unmodified hit roll of 1 for the attacks made with that weapon inflict 1 mortal wound upon the bearer after all the bearer's attacks have been made. So that's kind of awesome. The reason I like that is because if we go to where he is, oh, Beast Lord, here we go. If we go to the Beast Lord, I'm going to give it to him. I have a sweet Beast Lord conversion where someone took, what's his name? Scar of Bloodwrath, because he actually has hoofed feet. Brent made it where it has Scar of Bloodwrath with the hoofed legs and a Bestigor head, and he looks absolutely savage. I'll get him here in a second. But anyway, Beast Lord, his Man Ripper axes, 6 attacks, 3 up, 3 up, -1 rend. It would be 3 damage now, and his ability, dual axes, you can reroll hit rolls of 1, so I get to reroll, even though he will take damage on those rolls of a 1, he gets a chance to re-roll it. So I think Halo just said it thinks he has Gabe's potential. I really do too, because as far as I know, there's no limit on you can do the same thing multiple times with that command ability. I may be wrong. It's not the biggest deal. But between the points in my list and the battalion, I get 2 extra command points. And of course, you're always accruing more. And yeah, so being able to dump a bunch into a unit if you need something deleted is just a good option to have. Anyway, so that's basically it for Gabe Spawn, which is very exciting for me. Let's see. There's the Path to Glory. Rolings One's Jack says, "It's okay, Doug. I'll let you win." Well, that's okay, Jack. You don't have to let me win, dude. I'm sure I can beat you just by trying a little. For a battalion I'm going to take is a Desolating Beast Herd. And so this one is 1 Beast Lord or Doombolt. Okay, so we're going to have the Beast Lord. We're going to give him the Mutating Gnarl Blade, which is the coolest name for a weapon. 1 to 3 Great Bray Shaman. I have that in my collection. 1 to 3 units of Bestigor or Bulgor. So I have 30 Bestigor, and advice from the chat, I could run them as a block of 30, but there's no bonus to running them in larger numbers. They don't get like a +1 attack or anything like that. Someone suggested doing 3 units of 10 or a unit of 10 and 20. I might go the 10 and 20 route because, like I said, no matter how my opponent deploys at that point, I can at least have 1 unit on each side of them. Maybe the unit with 20 gets the Beast Lord, who's going to go crazy with the double axes. So that's kind of my thought there. Let's see. So that's the best gore requirement. 1 unit of gore or Tuskgore chariots. So I technically own 60 gore. Like, I can do as much as I want there. My thought is, gore are probably the most really they're not a great unit. They're just not. The thing is, they don't have the points efficiency of Ungor. In terms of Ungor are 60 points for 10, Gore are 80. But the thing is, Ungor, I'm getting some feedback. Sweet, I'll do the 10s. Let's just do it. So the thing about the Ungor is they cost so much less, and they actually have better fighting potential because they have spears. They have 2-inch range weapons, whereas the Gore only have the 1-inch option. So it's pretty sad. The thing is I own a lot of them, and frankly, I like the way they look. So just by the way of virtue of like getting stuff together to play the actual event, probably going to focus more on Gore. Anyway, so point being, I'm probably going to have 1 large brick of 30 with shields. They have a 4-up save. They exist to die and to soak up enemy damage, to tie things up and just be. Nothing more than that. Try to keep them near the herdstone and kind of apply defensive pressure that way so the enemy can't get to my objectives. And if they're near the herdstone, the reason I bring that up is because they're immune to battle shock tests at that point once they're in the bubble. So going to be doing that. And I have, I think I have 20 units of Ungor with spears, and I have 10 unbuilt. So that could be raiders if I wanted, but I'm not sure what I want to do there. Maybe have raiders just to do some shooting and spot removal, but even then their shooting's not great. It's 4 up, 4 up. So no, it's not. I think it's worse than that. And then 0 to 1 Gorians, who this guy. Unfortunately, I don't have a Chimera, but that's kind of next. So I have a bunch of I actually have a ton of Gores. That's why I said 60 Gore. 30 Bestigore, and a sum total of 30 Ungor in various states of assembly. So I do want to focus on beasts next, like building actual big, large point beasts. Anyway, so the whole reason I bring this up, I have everything I need for the Desolating Beast Herd. The bonus you get for this is if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a unit from this battalion, which is most of my army, is wholly within enemy territory is 6. So if I roll 6 to hit, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound and save roll for each. So it just adds an attack. And so if we go back to our missions here, which is of course always on my mind, the first mission, Total Conquest, seems the hardest. So of course the unit, my unit has to be wholly within their territory. And so because half the dang board is this 3-inch narrow strip, really I only have like this section, and I have to be wholly within, which means not even an inch of an enemy can be, my opponent can be pushing me out of it. So this one I'm probably not going to get as much mileage of that bonus, but the other two, look at the size of those. It's literally just straight half the table. So these are going to be awesome for that. This guy won't get as much value. That's okay. This is actually the mission I feel the most confident about. Just because what I lose in battalion synergy or bonuses, whatever, I make up for in the fact that they can't shoot me outside of 6 inches. So I'm okay. I'll take that trade any day of the week, because wherever I'm getting there without being shot to hell. So yeah. So I feel good about that battalion inside these, and of course, with the Gave Spawn's ability to produce more attacks, and of course it only increases exponentially your ability to get more 6s and that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. Very excited about that. Originally, when I posted it to the Beast of Chaos group, I was going to take the Pestilent Throng, which I think has game, but we're not going to dive in. I was basically going to make them, every unit that just gets blown up in a Pestilent Throng, which is the Nurgle one, does 1 mortal wound on a 2+ to all enemy units in 7 inches. So multiple units could be hit. But I thought it'd be really funny if I had heroes who, when they died, they blew up and did a mortal wound to everyone around them, and then had a chance to get a spawn. I thought that was super funny. But they steered me in the right direction. This battalion is so much cheaper, and just does more. And I didn't have the context of that until I actually looked at the where the enemy territory was. So that's super good. Going into the units. Let's see. Actually, let me get my screen ready. We're basically just going to build the list together. I'm going to go to the Roar Scroll Builder. And we're doing this. Okay. Keep in mind, I don't have tool monitors, so let's see here. Okay. So here we are. What I'm going to do is minimize this just a smidge and get it set up so where I can see the YouTube window on the side. Oh, crap. I'm ruining everything. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see here. So, Allegiance to Chaos, Mortal Realm. I haven't actually settled on a Mortal Realm. Here's the thing. So the only reason I would take or align myself from Mortal Realm is to get an artifact. And so I have 2 artifact options in this army right now. One, I have to take the mutating Gnarl Blade on the Beast Lord. Well, I have to take it, but I'm putting it on the Beast Lord. And I get one option. And here is, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Artifact of Power. Knowing that I get bonus attacks based on pumping command points into like wherever a spawn is, they have this thing called the Knowing Eye, which is at the start of your hero phase, roll a die. If the bearer is on the battlefield on a 4+, you receive 1 additional command point. So it's not quite a farm. I have no other ways of doing that, but it's a chance to get more of those. And I'm starting off the game with 2 because of I have an extra 50 points in the battalion. And so from there, also being able to generate more seems like it would be a darn good thing. Let me see if I can do this here. Just trying to get it to where I can see comments in case there is some feedback. There we go. Now I can see it over there on the right. So that's my idea. That's why I'm not even really considering super heavily. I can't think of any realm artifacts that really stand up like Gear Strike. I mean, I already have a good melee one with the Mutating Gnarl Blade. It seems like for the purposes of doubling down on Gave Spawn that the Knowing Eye is probably the strongest option there. So yeah. So anyway, all here. That's why I didn't have a Realmscape picture pick. So we're going to pick faction. So some of these are going to be based purely on my collection of what I have. So let's get the allies out of the way. I have Slaves to Darkness, which is their only ally option. And so these are going to be suboptimal. I already know it. Just, it's what I got. For these, here's the big consideration. If you're not familiar with the Herdstone, any unit that's not Beast of Chaos takes a -1 to the armor save if they're within so much of a... What is it? If you're so much within a Herdstone, you take -1 to your armor save. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that. But anyway, that also works for your allies. So anything that's not Beast of Chaos. So if you take Slaves to Darkness and they're near the Herdstone, they still get the debuff as well. That's a real bummer. And so when I focus on my Slaves to Darkness allies, I want things that are mobile, things that are going to push really far and be aggressive up front. And for those, I'm pretty much looking at Knights. And another signature model that I have is the Chaos Sorcerer Manticore, who is the saddest of models, but you know, he's there. He's doing his best. Yeah, it is brutal on effect on allies, absolutely. And so this basically contingent is going to be on the side. If we're looking at, let's click back here. If we're looking at our deployments and things like that, this one is actually super easy. Total Conquest, because I'm going to have the Herdstone like here, closest to my opponent, more towards the center. Having my Knights be like over here, so my opponent can't come Deep Strike or alternate deploy or whatever like that, and they can be aggressive on what is basically the further away of the objectives, I think is a good idea. So this one I'm really not that worried about. Chaos Sorcerer Lord and Manticore, he gets less value in this because his Wind of Chaos spell which is my favorite spell in the entire game, is less effective because it's a 6-inch range, but it is devastating when it goes off. For Scorched Earth, especially if I go the route of having a Herdstone between two of my objectives, just having them on the other side was a great idea. And Star Strike, nothing matters because you never know where anything is. just run them. Just run forward. And so that's my my thoughts there. So I do have most Slaves to Darkness stuff. But those are the ones I think they definitely have the most mobility. Knights have a 10-inch move. Mana Core has 12. So Mark of Chaos shouldn't matter. I'm thinking actually of going with Chaos Glaives on the Knights. I have a unit of 5 with Glaives and a unit of 5 with the Ensorcel Weapons. Basically, if you know the difference, Glaives get you Rend and a better charge. If you went, the turn you charge is just far more brutal with Glaives than it is with Ensorcel Weapons, which are just more attacks. But the thing is, I already have enough crap attacks in this army with all the gore and the ungore and all stuff like that. So I think going with something that has the potential to dump out some Rend is probably a much better solution for me. Anyway, so those are my mandatory taxes I have to do, just for the reality of, like, I'm still literally building the army. As far as going back to Beast of Chaos, which is the whole point. Herp-a-derp. Other stuff I want to do. Endless Spell. Chronomatic Cogs. I love the Cogs. And let me show you off something here. Okay. So if you guys haven't seen them, part of this is just me wanting to show off stuff that I've worked on, but not only are Cogs effective, but I put a lot of work into mine. So I have like a set of Nurglings hopping all over this thing, turned into a sludge cog. Anyway, so they also help out with everything my army does. If you don't know, all of the Brayherd units have a way to do run and charge, which of course the cogs assist in both of those things. I think that's kind of a great one. Of course it helps my enemy, but I mean, if the idea is if I just charge better than them, which is kind of all his army does. Okay, going into leaders. Actually, let me get the battalion. So Desolating Beast Herd. And I'm not super into the endless spells. Cogs is pretty much the one I like. I also really like the Crystal Wall. That kind of stuff. Halo is right. Yeah, if they're locked in combat, nobody cares if they get a bonus to move. That is exactly the idea. So let's go through the bare minimums of that battalion. Let me just pull that page up to make sure I don't miss anyone. So we need at least one Beast Lord who's going to be having the Gnarl Blade. Let's see here. Nope, here it is. Gave spawn, mutating Gnarl Blade. Make sure I'm okay. Making sure I was on the right page. Here we go. He is not going to be the general because he is not long for this world. Next is Great Bray Shaman. I have 2 Great Bray Shaman. I'm going to take them both. I'm going to have one be my general, and the other one, because there's some good spells. Let's see here. One is the general, and I'm going to give the general the eye, the knowing eye that allows him to take back command points. Let's go back to the book here. So let's take a look at spell lores, because this actually matters for them. Spell lores. So the ones that have stood out to me before, I'm not going to go through all of them because podcasts have done that or whatever. I like Wild Rampage. Wild Rampage has a casting value of 6, so it's pretty easy to do. If successfully cast, pick a friendly unit within 12 inches of the caster is visible to them. Until your next hero phase, you can reroll all failed wound rolls for their attacks. However, subtract 1 from their save rolls. So it's a plus and minus, but I feel like there's utility in that. Like I love having the idea of, like, if I just need a unit gone, like that was a guiding principle when I played War Machine and Hordes, is like sometimes you just need something gone. So I like Wild Rampage. Other ones that I've seen people take quite a bit are Tendrils of Atrophy. Has a casting value of 6. If cast, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that is visible to them until your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from the save rolls for attacks that target that unit. So basically, the debuff that I get for Wild Rampage, I can give to them without any of that. So Tendrils is amazing. I'm definitely taking that on one of them. So basically, if I have 2 Great Bray Shaman, I think my General is going to stay towards the back and be sacrificing Ungor on the pyre. And then that second one's going to be more like midfield, like right behind the front line, dropping Tendrils, I think is kind of the way to go. What's their base spell? I feel like that was at one point good. No, I'm going the wrong way. Devolve. Has casting value 7. If cast, pick an enemy within 18 inches of the caster that is visible to them. It is visible to them and not within 3 inches of any friendly units. Okay, so it has to be an enemy who's not engaged. Your opponent must move that unit 2d. Oh, this is the one that pulls them towards you. They have to move 2d6 inches towards you. Could be cool. So that's useful on my midfield caster for sure. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So we'll say Tendrils. We're going back to our list. Well, Tendrils on the one that's not the general. And then for the general, let's see here. Stranglethorns has casting value of 7. If cast, pick a terrain feature, hold within 12 inches of the caster. Each enemy unit within 3 inches. See, okay, so I think for the general one, I might take Stranglethorns because 24 inches is a pretty good range for the other missions. I've never played at this place before. It's Mox Boarding House in Ballard. So I'm not sure what the terrain situation is like, but I know like the Mox in a different city that I play at, they do have quite a bit of terrain and like stuff that you can stand on, like hills and junk. So that might be useful. If I have him keeping back a spell with a range of 24 inches is super useful on him, and it specifically says enemies, so it's not like I have a risk of hurting my own dudes. Maybe? I don't know. I'm more up in the air on his. So let's go back to my screen here. Let's see. So the Great Bray Shaman, who is not my general, is going to get Tendrils of Atrophy, the one that debuffs my opponent. And then my dude, I'm kind of leaning toward... No, I'm going to go with Wild Rampage. I want to bet heavy to win heavy on that. I mean, I like the idea of my guy getting... reroll failed wound rolls. I just feel like it's very versatile. Like if I need to have a unit defend my objectives and he's going to be near the Herdstone or near an objective, that's probably a good idea. That seems smarter. Okay. Anyway, so we're back on to base requirements for the Desolating Beast Herd Battalion. Let me pull that page back up. Here we go. So I need 1 to 3 units of Bestigor or Bulgor. I only own Bestigor. We'll go to units. I'm thinking I said 3 units of 10. We're just going to do that. If you don't know, Bestigor are like probably some of the most BA things in this entire army. They get 2 base attacks each. 4 to hit, 3 to wound. Which is basically anything in destruction. That's their profile. And what is it? -1 rend, which is amazing because not a lot of stuff has rend in this army. They can run and charge. They get +1 to attack when they do charge, in the turn they charge anyway. Of course, the Gay Spawn have a chance, if there's a spawn nearby, to give them an additional attack. And if they're fighting a unit that has 10 or more models, they get to reroll, or they get to add 1 to hit rolls. And they get to add an additional... So in addition, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks if it's against an order unit, which is awesome. So yeah. So 3s and 3s if it's a bigger unit. That's kind of cool. And let's see here. Not only can they run and charge, they get the Banner Bearer. Yeah, a unit that includes a Banner Bearer can move an extra 1 inch when it runs or piles in. The piles in is an interesting one, especially because if I'm using 3 units of 10, that matters. Being able to stretch a little bit. Okay, so I'm down with that. So let's see, that's that requirement. Now we're going to go to the next requirement, which is 1 to 3 units of gore or tusk gore chariot. Now, I have 60 gore. I could do 2 units of 30 and just have 2 big old blocks. I'm not sure if I want to. It's certainly better than nothing, but I'm at least going to have 1 big block. Again, they just... yeah, there's beast shields. Okay. Yeah, they basically just need to sit there and soak up wounds. That's their entire mission. They're just going to run and charge, and they're just going to, hopefully with cogs up. Which, speaking of cogs, that's what my sorcerer who's staying back doing nothing and just chilling, that's going to be his main mission, is getting cogs cast. So, what do y'all think? Should I do 2 big blocks of gore or just stick to the 1? I feel like if I just stick to the 1, it's going to get burned up pretty quick. Because, I mean, even with a 4-up save, that's awesome, but it's still going to get... I don't know. Let's see. If you have the points, go 30, 10, 10, 10. That's a good point. Hey, well. Well, I guess we can. I wouldn't get the discount if I don't go 2 big blocks. And I feel like the surface area of 2 big blocks... right now I'm talking about gore. Best of gore, I've decided to go with 3 blocks of 10. Totally cool. I'm going to go with 2. But I'll build the other ones. They won't be painted, but they'll be built. That actually probably changes my points a little bit. It does. So I did like a test list, and this is shaping up to be a little bit different. So we're going to do that. Anyway, so that meets the requirement for there on the Desolating Beastherd. It also requires 2 to 6 units of Ungor or Ungor Raiders. What I'm going to do is I have 20 Ungor built and painted. So we could just do 2 units of 10, and their job is to burn up on the pyre and also spread out to prevent the enemy from dropping down. Any kind of teleportation, that kind of stuff. Whatever you want to call it. Summoning. Whatever the means of model production are in my enemy's army. Let's see here. And then 0 to 1 Sigor or Gore. Which... Behemoths. Oh, wait, I don't want a Sigor. That guy's terrible. Oh, a Gorgon. That's what I wanted. Gorgon. There we go. And that brings me to 1960. So I'm just above getting my 2nd command point in my list. I guess I could drop... So I can't drop either of the Ungor because I need at least 2. If I wanted that extra command point, I could lower one of the Gore units. Well, how much would that lower it? Okay, it would lower it enough. Nice thing is, let's see here. So, okay, so just kind of get you guys in my mind what's going on right now. I'm trying to debate if lowering a unit of Gore from 30 to 20 is it worth getting a command point at the start of the game. That's my thought process right now. I'm trying to think. I mean, one thing, and this is another thing. Okay, yeah, I do that. That's kind of what I was thinking. The command point's worth it, especially when I have a mechanic built into my army that I'm choosing that can allow me to do those things. Cool. So I'm at 1910. I don't think we're doing anything with like, what do you call it? Triumphs, you know, when your list is cheaper than your opponent's. So that's awesome. But I think... Yeah, I think KO is right. Our combo is command ability stacking. Yep. So what he's saying is that like that the spawn thing where I can choose a unit within so close of a spawn and get an extra attack. I can do that multiple times. Like I can get Best of Gore up to being if they're base 2, they get 3 for charging. I can bump it up 2 to 3 more attacks if I needed to. It seems like a huge waste, but Ether Quartz Brooch. Where is that? Let's see. Hey, well, what realm is that from? That sounds Ether Quartz. It sounds highish-y. Spells. That's all spell crit. Where's it at? Artifacts. Chmonker. Oh, here we go. Ether Quartz Approach. Each time you can spend a command point, roll a dice on a 5-up, you receive 1 command point. So let's see, so the comparison is either it's a 4-up on each of my hero phases or a 5-up every time I use a command point. So I will be, yeah, you're right. That's a much better option because if I start the game with 2, that means in a given game I have more opportunities to roll a 5-up than I do opportunities to roll a 4-up. I think that pans out. Okay. I'm down with that. So let's go back here. Herp. And where did I put that on? Knowing Eye. Oh, I gotta change his realm first. That's how this thing works. We are from Hish. Actually, did you guys know that I painted them based on the Highish paint scheme in the book? So that actually is kind of funny that it just really kind of played out that way. Here we go. Ether Quartz Brooch. Okay. I'm feeling good about that. So let's see. And it doesn't matter, there's no range, it's just an artifact someone has to have, so it's still good on the general who's going to be staying back chilling. Got no Wild Rampage. I'm just going to go through real quick and make sure all the weapons are right. B shields. These guys have short spears. The Gorgon just is the Gorgon. And the chronomatic cogs are there. So I have... this is just super random, but are there any endless spells that would fit into that little 40-point thing? Let me see. How much are they in this book? Here we go. Hey, I got the pendulum primed. I could paint that. Actually, let me think about that for a second. So the pendulum would be super funny because I would still be able to have my 50 points for command point. The thing about the pendulum is I have a horde army, so if I were to point that sucker in a direction, I could at least try and force my opponent into a specific area. Yeah, if you don't know, the Ether Void pendulum is actually one of my favorite. Oh, my computer's having a hard time focusing. Here we go. Ether Void pendulum is actually probably one of my favorites. So I am pretty pumped about that. So, for example, in this, if I had the pendulum go off, I don't know. Actually, I'd probably send it toward its immediate place. And then the rest of my army would just do whatever it wanted to do. That's the only... Because you can choose to go 0 inches and still not hurt yourself, it's actually my favorite of the predatory endless spells. So, I think we'll do that. Let's do it. I'm just gonna action here, go back to here. Let's throw it in there. Are there any? I'll give it the chat a pause. But are there any super huge objections to throwing in the pendulum? What are my other options? Balewind Vortex? No. Burning Head? Not really. Already got the cogs. Oh. What do the Geminids do again? Hold up. Wait a minute. Put a little in it. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, man, I forgot there were so many stinking missions in this book. Just 1 second. Finding the actual war scrolls for the endless spells is proving to be kind of a pain. Oh, you know what? Awo just reached a good point. They are predatory, so they can be turned against me. So they are pretty devastating if I... You know what? That's a good point. I feel like the Ether Void Pendulum has a much lower rate of trying to hurt me. That's a good point. I'm going to take it. I'm going to pass on those, but that's an interesting thought. Level up Maelstrom, no thanks. Prismatic Palisade. You know, here's the thing about the Palisade. If I knew what the terrain situation was like, I'd be more inclined to take it. I don't know. I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah. I'm not sure what happened in the FAQ with the Geminids. I'm not sure what happened with the FAQ and the Geminids. Anyway, I'm just going to focus on this. So other things I can afford. So yeah, if I know the terrain is dense, then the Palisade's value in my idea goes up significantly. Because when I played with the Iron Jaws, I bought the Palisade just because I had an extra 30 points. And I was able to shut down a Legions of Nagash wall of skeletons because they had to take so long to go all the way around. And that felt pretty good. I just plopped that thing right between two buildings. I was like, yeah. Soul Snare Shackles. No thanks. I mean, the thing with the Shackles is I don't think they're a bad spell. I have so much mobility and aggression in my army. What do I need to slow down the enemy for? I'm just going to end up hurting myself. I'm going to be on those shackles in no time. And the Gravetide, my thing about that is it's predatory, like all the other ones. Vince nailed it when he was talking about malign portent spells this last week. It's just anything can flip back at you. It's just like, nah. I just forgot the Geminids could do that for a second. So I'm going to say we're going to add the Pendulum. I think that's looking pretty. Oh my god, it's 156 wounds of beef. 156 legs of lamb. Actually, it's not true. It's double that. They're all bipedal. Okay, I dig this. Let's see here. So things I need to remember. Let's see. Everything checks out as far as allies and points. Looking at the list. So I can have a unit in ambush for every unit that I have deployed. Okay. So I at least want to have 4 units in ambush, right? Because I have my Beast Lord and I can have my 3 Bestigors. I think that's kind of awesome. And I'd certainly have enough for that, right? I have Gore, Ungor. That's already 4. Okay, that's fine. And the Gorgon. Okay. So I think this is good. I'm trying to think. I want the 2 units of Gores on the table when the game starts. I'm trying to actually let's go back to the, let's see, we'll go back. Oh, I accidentally opened up my video editor. Okay. So I think I just want to have the, what do I want? The Bestigor and the Beast Lord to be in ambush. I'm trying to think. So the Ungor's job is to spread out. 1 unit is to spread out and take up space so the enemy can't deploy, deep strike, whatever. The other unit's going to hang by the pyre and get sacrificed. I'm probably going to just straight up paint numbers on them. Just 1, 2, 3. And then Brayherd Shaman's going to stay by. The General's going to stay by the Herdstone as well. What else? 2 units of Gore are going to be on the table at the start to act as a defense. The Gorgon's probably going to be with them, trying to just not get tied down. Maybe I'll start the game with the Ungor surrounding him as bubble wrap. I have 10 Ungor that I can use as Ungor Raiders, but they're 20 points more. Which I'd probably drop the Pendulum at that point, which is not a huge loss, but also the thing is just 10 Gore with their bow and arrow don't do a whole lot. Let me double check. Maybe they're not as bad as I'm thinking. Ungor Raiders. Here we go. 18-inch range, 4 up, 4 up. Also remember that in one of these missions, it's going to have a 6-inch range, so it's going to be utterly useless. Because if they're within 6 inches of someone, they're just dinner. So, not a big fan of that one. They're basically, the thing is, if they get a ton of dudes in the unit, they can re-roll. Let's see, where is it at? Reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made if it has 20 more models, and if it has 30 more models, you reroll 1s and 2s. So, but you are right. They do get a pregame move. Means you can get a hard counter to alpha strikes. That's true. But even if they alpha strike, they're just going to run into a bunch of wall of gore that I don't care about. Theoretically, this is all theory. That's a good point, though. I could be aggressive with them, move them up. Maybe if I paint them in really ridiculous colors, the enemy will think they're very important. Okay, let me put a pause on that. I'm going to think about that one. So yeah, all the Beast Lord and Bestigor in ambush, they're going to come in. They have to come in turn 1, which is interesting. They don't have a choice. There is an army type that lets me choose, but this is not one of those things. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking, Halo, because you got an interesting point here. Because I'm looking at this Total Conquest mission, right? If I had a unit of Ungor Raiders, like right here in the top corner, or either one, it doesn't matter, and they took their 6-inch move, right? That means I'm 3 inches away from the objective, so I'm already applying pressure immediately. And they're a unit of 10. They can't be ignored. That's interesting. For Star Strike, it never mattered because there's no objectives on the table before they get blown away. But Scorched Earth, I'm not sure how they would do with that. But for Total Conquest, what they lack in being able to shoot, they make up for in being annoying as hell. Because that's all they do. And it's 10 more wounds. So that would bring my army to 166 wounds. Or bodies. Just 166 bodies for the most part. Okay. Let's just do it. And the reason I say let's just do it is because I don't have a whole lot of spellcasters. So even getting... If I know I want to do Pendulum, or I know I want to do Cogs, I'm not also going to worry about doing Pendulum. So we'll drop Pendulum, and we will... I'm going to drop Pendulum and turn one of the Ungor into Ungor Raiders. Because that way I'll still be low enough to... I should be low enough. Let's see. Yeah, then I'm at 1930 points. So, yeah. Okay, that works. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to build those last 10 Ungor as Raiders. And be a super douche about moving up and being aggressive. Okay, done. Let's see here. Yeah, it's probably better than the Pendulum. Although I think the Pendulum has play, especially when I have so many models on the table. Like, the amount of board space that my opponent has is just minimal at best when I hit them. But I see the point. Like, if I had 30 Ungor Raiders rather than ones that I received, I bought them off Brent from Rolling Ones. They're already built as Spearmen. That's fine. Spearmen are great. They're just chaff, but that makes more sense. Okay, so that is my list. What I'm going to be working on right now is I'm going to be compiling all the crap that I have to remember. So is this one of the more important parts? I'm just going to scratch this out and I'll probably make a better version later. But let's see, we'll say pregame. So I need to place Hearthstone. So if you guys don't know, basically I always write out cheat sheets for myself because I will not remember these things. I'll remember them, but probably like 30 seconds too late. Place Hearthstone after sides are picked, but before deployment. And the Hearthstone is pretty cool. If you guys are not knowledgeable about the Hearthstone, basically you set it down anywhere in your territory, away from 12 inches away from your opponent's territory. And so basically what happens is it has a 6-inch aura effect that gives you immunity to battle shock if you're wholly within it. And if your opponent is within it, but not wholly within it, if they just touch the range of this thing, they have -1 to their armor saves. And so it's super good, super effective, makes me more killy. The thing is that every turn that the game goes on, when you're rolling off to see whose turn it is at the top of the turn, basically, or who goes first that battle round, the range extends 6 inches. So it goes 6, 12, 18. It just kind of keeps going as long as the game does, which is awesome. And so that's why placement of that thing as I was going through with this is super important. So when you think about, turn 6, if he's right here, that's not a big bubble, but then 12 and then 18, it's pretty significant. And you don't think 18 inches is big until you become like a Corrin player who has the blood secretor, and then all of a sudden 18 inches is just the whole freaking table. So yeah, so I'm doing that for this one, putting it in the more towards the centermost spire, I guess. In Scorched Earth, I'm going to put it, I think, between 2 objectives on my end, because my opponent's going to be coming to try and take and burn my objectives. So this kind of gives me a modicum of defensibility against that. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And then Star Strike, it doesn't really matter because nothing matters because you don't know where any of the objectives are. I'm so salty about that. Okay. That's pregame is the Hearthstone. Also... Raider movement. You gotta remember that, because that is technically a pregame thing. Armies are set up, but we haven't at least started yet. So that's super important. And then, basically what I do is I just list off exactly what I do in every phase. So in the hero phase, what do I need to remember? We'll do spells. I'm going to put in parentheses here, cogs first turn. Now, what's cool about the cogs thing is it doesn't just have the speed option, but it also has the option to where your wizard who's near it can cast an additional spell. So like you turn off the speed, your wizard gets better, which is super fortunate in Beast of Chaos, because one, if I'm aggressive and get my stuff to the enemy, I'm just going to turn off the speed thing so that my opponent, if they drop something down, they do not also get those bonuses. So I'm trying to make it as just for me as possible. And that would give him a chance to do 2 spells, which I don't really have 2 aggressive spells I would do, but it's there as an option. As far as other stuff, I don't think none of the Gave Spawn stuff goes off in the hero phase. Let's see here. Nope, the general can unbind more, that's fine. No, the rest of it is the start of the combat phases when you try the spawn, special spawn thing. Okay. That's cool. So we got our spells picked. Let's see, hero phase. I think that's honestly it. Oh, actually I'm going to put here top of turn. That's because I might go second, but we're going to say Hearthstone Aura extends. So at the top of every turn, that gets bigger, and then in my hero phase, no matter if I'm going first or second, doesn't matter. Let's see here. Okay, so that's good to remember. None of these things go off in the hero phase. The Desolating Beast Herd stuff. I don't think my heroes have anything. Nope. Okay, so hero phase is pretty fucking minimal for these guys. I love it. As far as even the command ability for the Beast Lord, which is the only other command ability I have in the entire army, that's a combat phase 1 too. It's basically if the Beast Lord kills somebody, he can use the command ability, and then somebody he picks a unit wholly within 18 inches of him, and what do? you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by that unit. So if you send your hero in, which he's going to have like the damage 3 weapon, he's going to kill something. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to kill something. When he does, I can spend a command point, and a unit near him gets reroll failed wound rolls, which is pretty sweet on a unit of Bestigor, which is the thing he's going to go in there with. So that way they would be hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s if it's a big unit, and then 3 ups to wound, rerolling with a -1 range. So that's pretty great. Anyway, all that to say, nothing in the hero phase. Let me go to movement. I'm not taking... I was originally going to take a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, but you know what? He doesn't fit into the War Scroll. We're keeping our drops minimal. One thing I didn't consider in the list that I made is that because I put the unit of Gore in there, I don't have room for 2 Chaos Spawn, which is originally I was going to put Chaos Spawn in there. Let me see. There's nothing I really want to drop. Actually, that's not true. Let me postulate a question here to the group. What if I dropped anything from my allies, that is Chaos Knights and Chaos Sorcerer Lord and a Mana Core, and tried to get Spawn? And Spawn are 50 points. And right now I have a free 20. So let's see, even if I were to drop the... what would I want to drop? I'm trying to think about that. I don't have enough... you're going to drop all allies? Let's see, so... let's just do it. I mean, I have the stuff. Let's just see how many... if I need to fill stuff in, I can always go backwards. So let's drop that. And we're going to throw 2 Spawn in. And now we are at 1670. Okay. Tell you what, I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. It's a little more interesting to look at. Okay, so we got those. So we'll drop the Knights and this Chaos Sorcerer and a Mana Core. One thing I might consider, as far as an ally goes, because it doesn't matter, is having a Sorcerer, just a basic Chaos Sorcerer. 1, he takes up points, but 2, more importantly, he's an extra Sorcerer that can basically just help me out with casting cogs and things like that. Let me actually see here. So I'm interested in... I don't know why my A button's not working. Give me 1 second. I just had a stroke of genius, and I just... I put Ever-Chosen and Slaves to Darkness together. I forgot about that. Okay, so what am I looking for? Here we go. I need his War Scroll. Demonic Power has a casting value of 5. If cast, pick the caster or a unit within 18 inches. Until your next hero phase, you can reroll hit rolls of 1, wound rolls of 1, and save rolls of 1. Here's the thing. What if I dropped that crap that I talked about? The only ally I took is a Chaos Sorcerer, okay? He will get hit with the -1 from the Herd Stone because he's not fast. He's not getting out of the way. But if my Chaos Sorcerer Lord is in combat, he's already dead. So I don't care about the money. I mean, he's going from a 5 up to a 6 up is not amazing. But the Demonic Power spell that he has, where he can take a unit, give it reroll any hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls of 1, is pretty stinking good. So like, what if I took him and had him follow up behind the unit of my 30 block of Gore, right? All of a sudden they're 4 up to hit and wound with a rerolling 1 now, and then the whole reason they're there is to be meat shield, so then it's a 4 up save because they're in combat with their shields, rerolling 1s to save. I think that's solid. I mean, it's Mystic Shield, just better, which is not saying much about Mystic Shield. And unfortunately, he would not make more spawns. But then again, so actually, or because now I have points freed up from dropping the... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You said I only want Gave Spawn heroes, which is accurate thematically and literally. So what if instead of taking the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, I do have a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth? Where does that put me at? Puts me at 1850. And when I do that, I gain access to a new spell lore. So let's see what that guy's all about. No, command traits. It should be this way. Here we go. So he gets Spell the Dark. So he wouldn't be part of the battalion. So I mean, he wouldn't get. He's not probably not going to be in the opponent's territory a whole lot anyway. So that's fine. Or in combat. So he would get Lord of the Dark Storms. There are 3 options here. Thunder Wave has a casting value 7. If cast, each unit within 3 inches of the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. I don't want him in combat. Hailstorm, casting value of 6. If cast, pick an enemy unit within 21 inches of the caster that is visible to them until your next hero phase. Have the movement characteristic of and run and charge forward. So half their movement characteristic, half their run and charge rolls. That seems good. Okay, and then let's see here. Sundering Blades, casting value of 7. If cast, pick a friendly unit wholly within 18 inches of the caster until your next hero phase. Improve the rend characteristic of that unit's melee weapons by 1. Okay, so the second 2 sound amazing. Let's think about this. So pick an enemy unit in 21 inches is the real kicker there. Because my god, that's a long range. Most of those things that affect movement, I tend to shy away from because you have to be too stinking close, like, for it to matter. That's Haywo saying Hailstorm is OP. I'm kind of digging that. I mean, I have to play it that all spells are. I mean, they're almost stinking worthless because the maximum range of everything is 6 inches in the first round. Like, it's so punishing. I'm kind of torn between Sundering Blades and Hailstorm. My reason that I'm moving towards Hailstorm is because, one, these are all objective missions where they have to be somewhere. My opponent has to be somewhere. So that's kind of awesome. The second thing is that where he is going to be, because he's not Brayherd, he can't ambush with people. So he's not going to be near the Bestigor. And I'd want to give them an additional rend, because the thing is, like, putting the additional rend on, say, putting the additional rend on, like, Gore, which is my main wall of people. They're crappy attacks. I mean, it's like polishing a turd. So I don't know. I'm more into the Hailstorm. The thing is, like, I just don't play enough to, like, see where that would always be useful. I mean, I don't play enough objective-based games. I do a lot of narrative missions, so is what I'm trying to say. So let's. Rend is great till you face Night Haunt. That is a solid counter argument, and I do know we have Night Haunt players around here. Let's see here. Oh, you do make a solid point. Hey, well, if you put it on someone, it just, yeah, they take forever. Okay, let's do that. Hailstorm. You know, here's the thing. They gave the Shaggoth and the Dragon Ogres this really cool lightning theme, and I'm so upset about one thing, is that there's not a single spell or ability called Thunderstruck. And it's just like, I just really want to look at my opponent dead in the eye and say, "You've been Thunderstruck," and just make a big scene about it and be a total loser. That's all I wanted, but I couldn't get it. I didn't get it in the Stormcast book when I played them, and I don't get it now. It's like, how many lightning-based factions have to come out before you give us a rule called Thunderstruck? Anyway, moving on. So we've got that. We'll go back here. As far as movement goes, big thing is ambushers come in turn 1. No exceptions. The not Gave Spawn, but the Dark Walkers or something like that, they have a thing where you can choose to come in second turn, which is super tasty, actually. They have a whole bunch of stuff. their thing is based around movement shenanigans, which is very interesting. And once I kind of flesh out my collection a little bit more, I think I'm going to be looking at that one as well. Let's see here. So movement. Other stuff to remember in the movement phase is that the Brayherd Shaman adds 3 inches to people near him. If you didn't know that, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, he basically just, well, thematically instills, I don't know, vigor and anger inside of them, and they move an extra 3 inches. So my beef wall of gore on turn 1, let's see, they will, hopefully I'll get cogs off. So let's assume that I haven't, for just the purposes of, they'll get 6-inch move, plus 3, so they're 9. They can run and charge, and they get +1 to their run because of the banner. So that's aggressive. Pretentification, are we army listing? Yes. This entire time, for the last hour and a half, I've been reviewing everything going on at this event that I'm going to on the 29th, and this is just an exercise to think out loud, and I'm getting some great feedback for some much more apt and intelligent game players as far as like tournament level games than I am, so that's exactly what's going on. So anyway, my beef wall to tie up the enemy is going to be moving extremely aggressive, and if they get that cogs off, that's amazing. And so that's the idea. Just shove so much lamb down their throats, you know, like have them choke on a euro, and then everything else, the best doers come in and clean up house. Other movement shenanigans, it really mostly is just the run and charge stuff. We'll say run and charge. Most of my army can. The Gorgon can't. Shaggoth can't. Oh, actually, in movement phase, since we added the Shaggoth, he gets D6 inches of movement on him. That's important to remember, because I can actually get my spellcaster to be very aggressively placed. Okay, I'm also making a cheat sheet for myself. Run and charge. Beyond that, I don't think nothing in Gave Spawn has to do with movement. Spell wars aren't really relevant. Nope, I took away the Seeing Eye artifact, so no, I think we're good there. And then we go into shooting. And I'm just going to put Raiders, and that's the only gun that I have. Raiders, LOL. Okay, and then charging. Right, move, shoot, charge. Except for, let's see here, except for the cogs, I don't think much gives me a bonus to charges. +1 attack for Bestigor if they make it. I see you guys chatting there. Futurama is without a question my favorite show. I have probably watched it start to finish probably 7 or 8 times. I prefer the original series. I didn't really like when they did the movies and then came back. It didn't have the same feel, but the original set, oh my gosh. Yes, the one, the episode with when they blows up Dupe headquarters is my favorite. Anyway, moving into charges. No one else seems to have anything. I don't think the Gores do. Nope. No, here's why I love this army. All this stuff is so straightforward. Let's see here. And then combat. I do actually have quite a bit for combat. That's where a lot of their rules are. Let's see. So starting off with the Beast Lord, he will be in combat. I'm just going to... Beast Lord... Remember his artifact. Let's see. He gets. Let's see. Reroll. Hit rolls of 1. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I know his command ability. Honestly, I don't think it's a good enough one to use, to be perfectly honest with you. Here's the thing. So if the Beast Lord, he has these cool abilities where basically he can re-roll failed wound rolls for attacks that target a hero. And that stacks well with his command ability, which is if any attacks made by this Beast Lord resulted in a hero or a monster being slain, you can re-roll failed hit rolls and wound rolls for a unit nearby. Kind of like before, if you kill something, he can make a unit re-roll failed wound rolls. If it's a hero or a monster that he kills, he can make them re-roll hit rolls. So to me, his command ability is only really worth it if you go for the heroes, because there's actually other ways to get re-roll hit rolls or better wound rolls, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so we'll see. It just depends. If my opponent puts a hero out there for me to capitalize on, I'm going to do it. I mean, there's just no reason not to. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, his base command ability, he just has to kill a model, which he will kill a model. He just won't kill a good model, like, say, a hero or a monster. He, basically, he's the ultimate rules interpretation of, I don't know, just a whole army of Space Marines gunning down an alien monster, and then one Inquisitor kills the last one, right? Like, he didn't do any other work for the entire fight, and then he just does it. So yeah, we got that. Combat, actually, before I do that, at the start of the combat phase is when I need to see use gave spawn bonus. So what I'm saying is, at the start of the combat phase, the first thing I need to look around and say is, do I have spawn that are near a unit in combat that I can give them the extra attack? So it has to happen first. The reason that's important is because as we're going back and forth in combat, if my opponent kills a hero mid-combat and it becomes a spawn, because I have to choose the gave spawn thing at the beginning, I can't use that spawn now to supercharge somebody. So that's important. I think that's pretty much it as far as like the big thing. Everything else is on the war scrolls. Just various stuff like Gores get +1 attack if there's more than 20 dudes, which is probably only going to matter on the unit of 30, because the unit of 20 will be degraded so fast that it's whatever. I think that's pretty much it. I don't have enough Ungor for that to matter. There's going to be sacrificed. Heroes. What does a Gorgon do? Let's see. Gorgon. Each time small attacks, you can pick an enemy. Yeah, okay. I mean, none of that's like... I'll have to have the page ready for myself, but none of it's super intensive to learn. Okay. Oh, you know what? Where are the raiders at? Okay, I got the movement for the raiders recorded. Let me go back to my list here. I'm just going to make sure I'm not missing any units on my list that have a special thing in combat, other than like just basically their stat line, which I don't think I do. No. Oh, actually, combat. Another important thing in the combat phase is battalion bonus. So are my units in enemy territory? That's actually something super important. So when I get to the combat phase, I need to assess, do I need to use spawn special stuff from Gave Spawn, and is my battalion bonuses, the Deathling Beast Herd, do I have units that are wholly within my opponent's territory so I can get extra attacks on 6s? So that's actually super important. This is the kind of reason that I do this stuff, because I would forget that. Or I would go the other route and say, on that first one where it's a weird deployment, on this thing I'd probably forget that and just give myself a bonus if I'm in that no man land. And I don't want to do that. I do not want to cheat or be cheated. And I think I'm going to say that's it. And then Battle Shock. Do I have anything in Battle Shock? I don't think a single thing in my army, I mean, other than large unit bonuses, which is going to come into play for the Gorgons. For every 10 models in you get +1 to your bravery if you forgot about that. For gores. Okay. That should be it. I don't have anything that buffs bravery. The only thing that adjusts it or modifiers are either things in my opponent's army or that last mission, which is a -1 modifier, but that's just that specific mission. That's not my army thing. Cool. Cool. Okay, friends. I'm going to basically spend the next few days like really intensively memorizing these war scrolls and the spells and things like that, casting values, stuff like that. That's kind of my idea. Going back, so now that we have army and stuff like that, all of my heroes, because I got rid of the allies, all the heroes 100% turn into spawn on a 2-up when they die, which is super exciting. I have 2 spawn in the list. Let's go back to that list. Did I actually fill that list out? So with all of that, I'm actually still at 1850. Oh, sweet Moses. Okay, and I do have the spawn in there. I'm trying to think of what I can fill. 1850. Just kind of actually, well, at 1850, I can bump that thing of gores back up to 30. That helps, and it's more beef. Look at that, solid 1900. So if I do that, I have a 1900 point list. So I start the game with 3 command points. Of course, my super command ability is that I can pump in more attacks. With the brooch, I have more chances to get those back. And then, I don't know. Okay, your guys' thoughts. 2,000 point tournament. Right now I have 1,900 points, but it is what? How many wounds do I have? It's 159 wounds of miserable beef mountain, and that's kind of deceptive because every hero that dies turns into 5 more wounds on a spawn. It's a 2-up. I mean, it's pretty much assured. There'll be 1 or 2 that don't go off. That's fine. Let's see. So basically my question is, do I try to figure out more stuff that I can jam in there? I think I have a Tuskor chariot, a super old metal Tuskor chariot I could throw in there. He's not terrible. How much is Tuskor chariot? This is my battle tome. I should know this crap. Tuskor chariot, 60 points? Triumph is real good in an army like this. That is true. That is a very factual statement. I'm trying to review in my head. Yeah. I'm gonna stop it here. I'm gonna leave the list at 1,900 points here. That gets me a ton of command points. A big pool to go through. What's interesting is this list would actually be super fun with the all herd thing too, because at that point they can spend a command point and gain a primordial call point. They can like lean into the summoning, and so that's incredible. I remember when Vince and Tom on Warhammer Weekly went through the Beast of Chaos book, they were talking about that you can have lower count armies to get triumphs and things like that because there's so many dudes for so cheap and they kind of synergize so well. So okay, we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna go for gold. So that's our army list as we review stuff and things. Okay, so with that context, I'm gonna take a look at here. Total conquest. I'm gonna review the missions really briefly. We're just gonna chat about what that army looks like in context now that we have that again. Again, if you weren't here for the first time we went through this, this is the first mission of the tournament I'm going to. Impenetrable Gloom is the Rumskeep feature. No one has range for shooting or spells more than 6 inches, which is really good for me because my opponent won't shoot me off the board before I get in there. My what am I saying? My Gore shield wall will have a great chance to move and be very aggressive. Very excited about that. That might be one where I'm tempted. So when I play melee heavy armies, I tend to go second because I want my enemy to come first and then I'll go charge them. But this is a situation where, like, man, going first sounds good because I can move the wall up so much further. So, okay. Trying to get cogs off. I have, 1, 2, 3 spellcasters or wizards. So I have 2 shaman and a Shaggoth. None of their spells are going to matter a ton because of the range required. Late game, it could definitely matter. The big thing is cogs, but range is irrelevant at that point. You just set it next to you. So that's fine. So this, generally speaking, this thing only benefits me. The cool thing is that the spawn... what do they call it? The spawn command ability for Gave Spawn lets me get a bonus attack. Isn't a spell. It's not an attack. So that 12-inch range for that bubble is solid gold. Super pumped. This one, already decided where the Herdstone's going. And then just have everyone tie up as many units as possible. Best of Gore come in, sweep the leg, and then profit, question mark. Have heroes turn to spawn. The cool thing is that spawn can still grab objectives. And so at that point, it's just kind of playing things by ear. Honestly, I feel the most confident about Total Conquest because of the RuneScape feature, which I don't like. I mean, it benefits me, but I don't like it because it's so heavy-handed against shooting armies. We were chatting, like, Jack's Stormcast army is very aggressive with shooting, but he was like, well, what if you're a Character and Overlords player? I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's kind of just turns off your army. I mean, it's a solid point. Anyway. Scorched Earth. Herdstone's going to be defending 2 of mine, and I'm thinking of putting the Gore walls, one big one in the center of those 2 objectives, and another one off to the right here towards the center of the table, and kind of using them to basically, I'm going to not give my opponent one of my objectives, but really hunker down on 2. Because I'm going to be aggressive with everything else in my army about pushing for all 3 of his. You know, I have Best of Gore units, and that Beast Lord is going to be there, back there being aggressive. He's going to turn into a spawn, which is another unit that can capture things. This one, so my plan of attack here is to really totally focus on defending 2 objectives, because it's the surface area that my army can effectively cover really, really well. And then go for his with everything I have. And at this point, it's trying to see how well can my opponent, first of all, penetrate my shield wall to get into those things without being clipped by the Herdstone, giving him -1 save, which is super rough. Actually, that's going on my list. Debuff from Herdstone. And then for Battleshock, I said I had nothing, but... Stone makes people immune to Battleshock if they're fully within it. This is why I do these things. Okay. So yeah, that's my plan. Totally defend 2, but be aggressive to all 3 of my opponents. Certainly, at this kind of mission, I hope that I go... What do I hope that I go? Kind of hope that I go second. That's not true. So all my ambushers have to come in turn 1 no matter what, whether I go first or second, doesn't really matter. So I'm not quite sure. Part of me wishes that I would go second because that way they'd have a chance to move up so that I would have more room to come in. That sounds kind of tasty, but I'm just going to put go second with a question mark here. That's my thought there. And that seems pretty good with the list I have. At that point, if I have the Shaggoth slowing people down, I can probably have him more towards the center and try to help slow people down towards either getting back to their lines or coming for that 3rd objective that I can't defend really well. I think y'all were right, especially Halo. That Hailstorm is probably going to be very important for this mission specifically, especially because nothing hampers spells. I think more than anything, I see it useful here. So I feel good about that one. And then on Star Strike, I've kept saying I hate this mission because you don't know what the game you're playing is until turn 2 and then 3. At this point, it's just setting myself up for success. Probably a big unit of Gore on each side. Kind of play it by ear with the Raiders on where they should go. I really don't know. Like, because there's no objectives, there's no point. So I'm just going to look for a side, maybe try to draw a unit off to a random direction. To fake them out, I guess. And then Ungor are going to try and come in on their side. What really gets me on this one, I've played it probably 5 or 6 times, is when my opponent just doesn't move. They just choose not to move the first round. And it's like nothing stops them from shooting. Shooting is actually more damaging to me because every time I take a loss, I have -1 to bravery. I don't know. Does anyone have any tips for playing Star Strike effectively? Because I don't just want to sit still, because my army is built upon speed and aggression, like in a big way. This might be one where I choose not to do cogs, because I don't need speed and aggression, and I don't want my opponent being able to spread out well. Like, I'll just pause for a minute, run across the board and lock them in the deployment zone. That is a fair point. So if they castle up, trap them in there and just have big blobs of gore for them to deal with. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to pin them down as my strategy. Solid point. Yeah. That's true. You know, I guess when I played this before, I never had an army that had the potential to run and charge. I always played like Corn or my Bone Splitters, or even the Iron Jaws. I mean, they had more movement, but I don't remember playing these with the Iron Jaws. I think I did 3 places of power with the Iron Jaws. That was a rough one for me. Okay. So, friends, I feel good. I'm going to type out a more cleaner version of my cheat sheet here and spend some time reviewing my war scrolls. What I plan to do is basically another stream similar to this with these things. As I'm playing the game, I'm going to write notes on the back of it and just kind of keep track of like what happened, and then come back and hopefully get some feedback and just share with you. I kind of like the crowdsourced list that we all collectively built. That was super fun. Big shout out, thank you, Halo Twitch, for your expertise. Even in just I know you pointed out some of the stuff that Doom and Darkness was doing. I tried finding videos where he was talking about what he was doing. Not a ton on there. I mean, it's kind of just little bits and pieces across multiple conversations. So finding it all collectively was a little bit tough. But yeah, I feel good about this. So I got a lot of gores to build. I was originally going to be like, oh, I want everything painted for this event, and I was kind of basing my list off what I could reasonably paint. And I've totally walked away from that for the sake of, I just want to have a good time, learn the rules, not worry about my allies getting hurt, that kind of stuff. And so I think that is the plan. So if anyone's kind of curious, we can see the whole list in one thingamajig here. So yeah, we have a Beast Lord with the Gave Spawn artifact, and he's going to be a Wrecking Ball, a 90-point Wrecking Ball with a damage 3 weapon, rerolling 1s to hit. General Shaman is going to be getting us back command points on a 5-up, and when we start the game, we will have 1, 2, 3 command points, and then obviously we'll get one every turn. He has Wild Rampage, giving a unit nearby more devastating attack in combat while reducing their armor save. That's okay. I'm cool with that. The second Great Bray Shaman, right here with Tendrils of Atrophy, that basically reduces the save characteristic of an enemy unit. He's going to be kind of my midfield. He's going to be right behind the gore. The idea being, I hope to get him in a position where important pieces can be tendrilled, I guess you could say. Acting as a midfield caster, maybe doing, let's see here, maybe doing some, I don't know, Arcane Bolt if I need to for a wound, whatever. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is going to follow. He's going to be more focused on preventing my opponent from doing meaningful movement with his Hailstorm spell. And also, he is a 10 wound beat stick. Like, he's a mean, aggressive hero. I really like the Shaggoth. I need to get a base for mine because he didn't come with one, but I like him. Also, the most successful Finecast model I've ever made because he's so thick and beefy that the bubble issue where it kind of crumbles apart doesn't happen, or the warping things. So for battle line, oh, you know what? Hold on a second. I need to. Oh, for some reason it didn't modify the list until just now. But it says my battle line are Gore, Gore, and Ungor, but actually it includes the 3 units of Bestigor. Bestigor become battle line if your general is a Beast Lord or a Great Bray Shaman, so that's an error on that part. But those, I have 6 battle line options. So that's 30 Gore, 30 Gore, who all have Beast Shields. They have a 4-up save in combat. Their job is to just run straight up and tag things and just lock the enemy down. 10 Ungor are going to sit in the back and be sacrificed upon the pyre to get me primordial call points. That's my summoning mechanic in the game. That's going to be used to bring spawn on the table to also get bonuses. Like I said, I think collectively I have 6 spawn models. That should be plenty. Because not all my heroes are going to die simultaneously, God willing. If that happens, it's just time to shake hands and buy a beer. Anyway. Anyway, so these guys are going on the pyre to hopefully bring in more spawn. Or, I mean, I could bring in other stuff. I have options I haven't even looked at. I might look at that in a second. Beyond that, Ungor Raiders to be aggressive, particularly in the Total Conquest mission, to go up there and sit right by an objective, because they're technically claiming it turn 1. And so my opponent needs to respond, or if they make the mistake of not going for an objective, it's just mine, which is fun. And then 2 Chaos Spawn in the list already because that's what I wanted to do, and they're awesome. And they do have a potential, if something goes critically wrong or I have a mirror match where I get aggressively slammed turn 1, I do have a way of getting those bonus attacks. And I have 3 command points at the start of the game to crank them out. 4 because it'll be turn 1 and I'll receive a command point. So I can always like one up my opponent. I still think there's game to including a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on foot with a demonic power spell. I'm going to experiment at that later, but for right now we'll keep it simple. We'll just stick to Beast of Chaos because that's reroll hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls of 1, which is pretty great when you have so many dudes. Like I said, we'll experiment that later. Behemoth is a Gorgon. The Desolating Beast Herd rewards me for being aggressive in my opponent's side of the battlefield with an extra attack on each hit roll of 6, or natural hit roll, can't be modified. And then Cogs to help with the aggression. So that is the thing that we have built for this, I don't know, tournament, which I've just thoroughly broadcast to my arch rival and nemesis and good friend Jack from Rerolling Ones. And I'm happy with it. I like it. I like it a lot. So I will get to memorizing those those war scrolls, and also kind of our plans for the mission. This is the missions I'm more concerned about, like remembering everything for. What I don't want to do, like I did last time, which is I kind of have a vague idea of the mission, and then I walk up and my opponent has 0 clue, and I'm like, I want to be able to like educate them pretty quickly and efficiently if that happens to me again. But yeah, and so let's see here. I'm gonna actually, it's 2-hour mark. I'm losing my voice. I want to say a huge thank you to all you folks who chimed in. Halo Twitch, you did a great job. Thank you so much for giving me some good feedback. But there were several of you that commented on stuff like removing the allies and the idea of the pendulum and that kind of stuff. Really do appreciate it. Like I said, I am going to do a report on how the event went. I'll do a full breakdown. We'll go mission by mission and talk about what the point of the list was for people who didn't get a chance to watch this, and then discuss how it went. I'm not there to win, I'll be honest with you. Realistically, the whole point of me going this thing is because tournament play is an aspect of the hobby that I have neglected for a long time. I'll be honest, when I started this channel a while ago, there were some very aggressive players in their area that made it very unfun, and so I had a very negative view on them, on like that crowd who likes that part of the game. But I have since come around to like, I want to be like the hobby Renaissance man and like figure it all out. So yeah, I'm trying very hard to get into the competitive side of things. So I'll give you a full report on what happened as well as how the games went. I have my wait for it, because I'm that guy. I have my Warhammer journal in here. I'm going to be full of notes. You don't even know. And so talk about my opponents, and if I can get, I think a lot of the rerolling one guys are going to try and go on. So if I can get them on the show, we'll talk about what happened, what lists we chose, that kind of thing. But I really do appreciate everyone's help. Let's see here. Okay, sorry. As far as what I'm trying to get out of the tournament, one, I want to get comfortable with playing in tournament setting. That is actually my number one goal, is just to get comfortable. And that's actually why I took the time to print out the missions and review them, because I want to be comfortable with what I'm doing, explaining to my opponent, with my list, so I don't spend a lot. Like, I'm already going to be spending a lot of time playing this army because I have so many models to move. I want other phases to go much faster. Obviously, the fastest phase I have is the hero phase, the shooting phase, with my one unit with a crappy crossbow. But yeah, so that's the main goal: get used to tournament setting and playing, and just try to have a good time so I can have more things to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for the night, but thank you all so much for your help. Huge help to everyone who, thank you to everyone who helped me come up with the list. And I will talk to you really soon. I do have some content coming out this week. I have a painting tutorial for the herdstone effect that I did, where it goes from red to blue. And then what else? I'm going to be doing a lot of live streaming this weekend. I have a 5-day break. So I had today off, and I don't go back to work till Wednesday. And so a lot of painting, streaming, and building and that kind of stuff, as well as, so we'll do lots of hangouts. I'm just going to sit on my computer and start hanging out. If you're available. I like Haywo's thing: respect your opponent enough to give them a competitive game while still being nice. That is exactly what I do. I had a bad experience with some games last time, but being kind is paramount to what I want to do. So that is everything to me. So yeah, I will give you guys a full report, and you'll see a painting tutorial and a few other things as I prepare for the event. I look forward to seeing you guys then, and I will talk to you soon. Happy wargaming.